Welcome to another class for Global Perspectives. I'm going to take you through corroboration, refutation, and scope activity. This is somewhat similar to the annotation activity you did a couple of weeks ago, but now I want to focus specifically on corroboration and refutation because in your paper 1 question 3s that you've done in the past, this has been the main issue. You all can analyze beautifully and assess strengths and weaknesses, but sometimes corroboration is missing. So what you're going to do, like with the annotation activity, is first highlight the main conclusion of both documents. Remember that it tends to be at the end. Then, something you also did with the annotation activity, figure out the scope. Is it economic, political, humanitarian, cultural, etc.? Then, is it global or is it focused on a particular region? Is it balanced? Is it one-sided? Then, in particular, when you look at document 2, look for points of corroboration to the first document. Corroboration can take many forms. Does it mention a similar statistic? Does it reference the same source, the same example, the same study, or even a similar source or similar study that came to the same premise? Even if it mentions the same country, the same region, that could be corroboration. But then you have to determine which one's stronger, because remember that question 3 is always going to ask you to what extent is document 2 the stronger of the two. All right, so you've got to decide, is document 2 stronger or is it document 1? And then why so? Is it the scope that's better? Is it the balanced or one-sided nature of the article that's better? Or is it just that the support is better? Is there a really good reason, piece of evidence, example, or even premise that strongly disproves the weaker document? Now, this can be a challenge if the two documents don't take opposing sides, because maybe they're dealing with a problem, like in the sample I'm about to show you about coral reefs. We're not arguing the pros and cons of coral reefs. We're arguing how do we solve coral reef bleaching. So if that's the case, I'm not really looking to disprove the weaker document. I'm looking to see if one is more positive than the other, if one has better solutions than the other, or if one's scope is more appropriate than the other. All right, so this activity will take you through that, and there's a whole table to help you achieve that. All right, so for example, here, I read the first one and I look first for my main conclusion. I do think you should read it first. Go to the main conclusion first so you don't get confused. This one says, this will help us to understand what has happened so we can respond the next time we face a disaster. This to me seems it's basically admitting there's not much we can do for coral reef bleaching, but maybe we can help with other environmental problems. So I need to keep that in mind. Then when I go to document 2, I go to the end, and they're saying in this way, perhaps they, and by they mean the diving industry, as stated in the previous sentence, can help to reverse some of the damage. Okay, that's a difference already. They're on the same side, but document 2 is acknowledging that there is a possibility for solutions, in particular with the diving industry. When I read through my documents, they're both pretty global. And as I read for document 2, I'm looking to see if there's any similarities, okay? And one of the similarities is they mention Thailand. Another similarity is that they talk about tourism. Document 1 mentioned that when it comes to food and when it comes to tourism, the loss of coral is going to be negative. So that's corroboration. So I get a sense for the document. So now I take you through two. First, the stance. One is negative, while the other is more positive about solutions. Their scope is similar, with the only difference being that document also tackles humanitarian. They're both pretty global. I mentioned how they corroborate by mentioning Thailand, tourism, ocean acidification, and I decide document 2 is stronger because the solutions are plausible and are supported by several experts. So that's what I need you to consider when you're looking for a corroboration and when you're trying to figure out refutation. Thank you for listening in.